Thanks, Rita. Welcome to BBC London. Coming up this Monday evening. Fed up with their living conditions, residents in Ealing say they've put up with cracks in their walls for years.
There are cracks all over the flat, around all the windows, in the bedroom, main wall over there.
We investigate. Also tonight, final security checks in Windsor ahead of President Trump's state visit this week. Plus,
Bosh!
bumpy landings and travel disruption for some during a blustery day in the capital. And meet Vera, who's become one of the country's youngest university graduates at just 14. Hello and good evening to you. We start tonight with the residents of a building in West London who for years have been dealing with cracks in their walls that no amount of plastering can cover up for long. The Housing Association block in Ealing has more than 30 flats, around a third of which are home to vulnerable residents. One tenant with a disability has been moved from flat to flat while the cracks are quite literally being papered over. Our reporter Anna O'Neill, who's previously visited the block, has returned to find out more.
The cracks have got much bigger and the wall has moved out, as you can see at the bottom there.
It's almost 3 years since I visited Mick and his neighbours at Hangerview Way in Ealing, but things don't seem much better.
The cracks started as little hairline marks in the paper, and as you can see, that dropped out the other night and have worked their way across the room.
They've been having structural problems at their Housing Association flats for years, with huge cracks appearing in the walls again and again. Mick took me back to the flat he'd been moved into, now occupied by another tenant, while repairs were carried out on his home.
And they came and replastered, because they said that's all it needs, and this is a result of their replastering work, as you can see in the kitchen.
Now, this is the bedroom, which you're not living here anymore, of course, but your neighbour Cameron is. And you're telling me he's too scared to sleep here?
He's very scared sleeping here because he can see movement and bits coming down at night.
Wow.
Especially in this corner here.
Mick says remedial works that were carried out on his original flat to allow him to move back in are already failing again.
There are cracks all over the flat, around all the windows, in the bedroom, main wall over there.
And you've got to the stage, Mick, where you have decided to withhold your rent for the time being.
I think it's the only course of action I can do, because they're in breach of contract, so why should I breach the contract?
But withholding rent can be risky for the tenant.
In law, the landlord's breach of the tenancy doesn't allow you to breach your side of the tenancy to pay rent. The landlord could go after you with a money claim for the arrears or even possession proceedings based on rent arrears. You might have a counterclaim for the disrepair, but it may or may not cover all the arrears, so it's a pretty risky approach.
This is the worst one.
3 years ago, in the next flat along, Adam could see through a crack in his wall into the next room.
And even I can stick a knife in there easily and will come out from the other side.
This is Adam's flat. Adam is still living here, but he still has the same kinds of problems.
Hello, come in, please.
Thank you. So this door, for a start.
Yeah, the door, because the ground movement and the walls is distorted. I can't close the door anymore. You see the gap on the top there.
Well, this is the inside, and this looks familiar.
Yes, it is. That's the same cracks and the same pattern, and.
But they fixed this.
What they done? That's plastering and decorating. They put some metal mesh and plastering and decorating.
Across the rather damp corridor, leaseholder Donna is wondering whether her decision to buy her flat 5 years ago was the right one.
Yeah, you can see here that it's gathering water, and up here we've got black mould. So for it to leak through a concrete, it just tells you how long this problem has been going on for.
And the paint is all just...
The paint's all over the floor. I pay a very expensive service charge. The Housing Association and Peabody are responsible, and I will stop paying my service charge.
Peabody says structural engineers have written to residents to reassure them their homes are safe. Peabody also told us,
a few years ago, we dealt with the original subsidence by removing the tree causing the problem and carrying out repairs. At the end of 2024, cracks began to reappear. Our insurers have been monitoring the situation, and we believe nearby trees may now be the cause.
the residents are not convinced, and that is one crack that can't be papered over. Anna O'Neill, BBC London.
Well, do grab your phone because we are keen to hear from you about the housing issues that you're facing ahead of a special series coming up on the programme focusing on it. Just scan the QR code you can see there to WhatsApp us your story, or you can get in touch on email. The address also there, let me give that to you, hello@bbc.co.uk. US President Donald Trump and his wife Melania will begin their two-day UK state visit tomorrow. It's the first time the honour has been given to a foreign leader twice. The King and Queen will welcome them to Windsor Castle. As you can imagine, strict security measures are being put in place. Asad Ahmed can tell us more about them from outside the castle.
The barriers are out, the flags are up, and Windsor is looking ready. The biggest security operation this country ever sees swings into place only for the serving US president when he comes here for a visit. Add to that the fact that the security operation has been further tightened since the killing of the president's friend and close ally Charlie Kirk in Utah earlier this month, and you can only imagine the hundreds of security personnel who are working day and night to make sure the president's visit here passes off peacefully and without any hiccups at all. Obviously, there'll be a security operation in place on the ground. There'll be no fly zones above Windsor Castle. And on the River Thames, just behind the castle over there, police marine teams have been scouring the river to see if there's anything unusual or anything untoward in place which they should be taking note of. They've been doing that for a few days. They'll continue to do that until after the president leaves. This is what they had to say.
We are quite self-contained here on the water. Our plan involves some closure of the River Thames for certain periods of time over the next couple of days, but everything we do is quite contained to the water. The team are highly trained and our plans are in place, so what we do on the water won't change.
Now, the different police units who are all working together work under the command of the Metropolitan Police, who also have their own SO14 unit, that's Royal Protection, and they work directly with the US Secret Service. But be under no illusion whatsoever, the US Secret Service take ultimate responsibility for the US president's safety. They don't take orders or commands from anybody else. It's why they come here with their own vehicles, with their own support teams, even their own weapons. And they insist that they do not require permission from anybody to draw those weapons if there's a perceived threat towards the president. Now, as for the trip itself, the President and the First Lady will be at Windsor Castle on Wednesday. They'll stay within the grounds of Windsor Castle. Don't expect them to pop out to the fish and chip shop or for a bit of a shop down the high street. They are going to stay within those grounds until it's time to go to Chequers, which is in Buckinghamshire, which is where they'll be meeting the Prime Minister. The trip ends on Thursday when they'll board Air Force One and go back to the United States.
Was Asad Ahmed in Windsor there, a blustery Windsor. We'll talk more about the weather later on. Right now, you're watching BBC London. Great to have you with us. Lots more ahead tonight, including how a blustery day in the capital has led to travel disruption for some. Now, this time last week, commuters took to bikes, buses and even boats to get around the capital during the 5-day tube strike, which affected almost all lines. But could talks being held this week avert further industrial action? The RMT union has told BBC London they believe there's a deal to be done on getting a 32-hour week for workers, something TfL has previously said is unaffordable. Our transport correspondent Tom Edwards has more.
Last week, 5 days of strikes badly disrupted the capital. Talks are planned for Wednesday, And today the General Secretary of the RMT union said he was positive, but he couldn't rule out more strikes.
I am hopeful, and I'm almost optimistic, but I've seen a few negotiations gone wrong. If you were to ask a better man, I think we're going to make some progress in these discussions. I think it would be remarkably foolish if we got the cold shoulder at the first meeting from TfL. We'll take our time with it. We'll do the best we can to come to a reasonable settlement. We'll consult our people, and if we can get ourselves into a position where there's a compromise that works on both sides, then we'll settle. We don't want to come back out into strike action. But if this all collapses and we turn up for the talks and we just get the cold shoulder and there's no progress, there's no movement, then we'll be left with I'll have to go back to my members and report that to them and ask them what they want to do next. And the answer will probably be more strike action.
At the centre of this dispute is the RMT's demand for a 32-hour week. TfL says it's unaffordable and would cost over £200 million. The union says it's a health issue.
We were starting to notice our members were going into ill health before they could get to their retirement, and so couldn't get to enjoy their retirement. So for our members, this is a question of health. The move towards a 32-hour week allows for more quality rest away from those shift patterns.
The Elizabeth line ran throughout the strike. Pay negotiations there have stalled, with accusations, something TfL denies, that ticket offices could be closed. The union wants a meeting with the mayor.
That suggests to me that there is a lack of faith, trust.
This is why we need this summit with the mayor, because he's got one agenda, the Labour government's got one agenda, but I think these commissioners in TfL are running the show. And I don't agree with that, because I think Londoners elect their mayor, he should be in charge. Whether you like him, don't like him, if you're elected by the people and you've got an agenda, you should be able to deliver that.
Commuters will hope both sides will compromise, something that hasn't happened so far. Talks to resolve the dispute start on Wednesday. Tom Edwards, BBC London.
We will, of course, keep you updated on that. Let's take a brief look now at some of the day's other news. The Metropolitan Police is appealing for help to identify 11 people following violent disorder at protests in central London on Saturday. There were 24 arrests, the majority linked to the Unite the Kingdom rally in and around Whitehall. Officers want to speak to these further people in connection with a range of public order and assault on emergency services offences. Barking, Havering and Redbridge University Hospital's NHS Trust is one of 14 in the country to be examined as part of a rapid review of maternity and neonatal care. The Trust runs the Queen's Hospital in Romford and the King George Hospital in Ilford. Baroness Amos, who's leading the review, says it should be completed by December. There was a 44% increase in bike crashes on the capital's roads last week as the tube strike saw more commuters take to two wheels. London saw an increase in trips taken by bike during the walkout. On one day, it was around 2 million trips. And the government is reinstating the £1.5 million grant to finishing rebuilding a youth club in Southend. Funding for the Lifston Boys Club site had been withdrawn earlier this year, despite construction work already starting. Next, for 25 years, the capital's first and oldest children's hospice has been providing specialist care for children with complex life-limiting conditions. Some of them have just days to live. All of them are from the most deprived areas of London. And now Richard House in Newham says a major funding crisis is putting its future in jeopardy. With more on this story, here's Chris Legg.
Yeah, you're breaking my heart, baby. You make a mess of me.
14-year-old Jaden being serenaded by the Mum's Choir at Richard House, a hospice which provides unwavering support to children with life-limiting conditions. But a funding shortage threatens its ability to provide future care. Care Jaden's mum Karima says is vital.
Not many people, unless you either have a child that is severely disabled or you know someone and you've watched it, you cannot at all appreciate the amount of need and care that is behind that. For me, it's 24/7 care. It's literally everything that needs to be done. It has to be done by one or two carers at all times. You need a community like Richard House to be able to ensure that you have some quality of life.
Currently, more than 300 families across London make use of Richard House, its gardens and this play area. It gets less than a third of its funding from the NHS. The rest comes from donations. But the cost of living crisis has seen some of that dry up. And Richard House says it's now in a position where it may soon have to turn away some families. The figures are stark.
We need to find £1.275 million before the end of the year, of which we've managed to raise some of those funds already through our own initiatives, but there's a further £338,000 to find before December. We're at the point where we are very seriously looking at having to turn people away. There is significant unmet need for our services. The part of London that we're living in here has the fastest growing population in the entire UK, so that demand is only ever going to increase.
A sensory garden is among the many resources through which Richard House brings hope in the darkest of times.
Many people, when they think of children's hospices, think of end of life and that it's a sad place, and sometimes it is, but for the most part it's joy, it's a lifeline for families.
I also take part in the mums groups, my son uses the sibling groups. There's just a whole variety of services that are tailored exactly for our needs, which outside of, this premises just isn't available for us.
For the many who depend on Richard House, help can't come quickly enough. Chris Slegg, BBC London.
Now, I mentioned the weather earlier. Did you get caught in gusty winds out there today? It has been causing disruption across the capital. Things are calming down now after having had a yellow wind warning in place all day. But we are left with some travel issues this evening. Wendy Hurrell can tell us more.
Bosh! Jerry Dyer of Big Jet TV documenting the bumpy landings at Heathrow and some flights not touching down as planned.
Go round!
Crosswind gusts of up to 40 miles per hour were challenging some pilots.
Oh, not again, not again. Oh, he made sure of it this time.
Flights were taking off in wonky fashion at City Airport, but here there was one diversion and delays or cancellations at other airports. Woolwich Ferry wasn't running due to the high winds, and the cable car over the Thames was closed all day. Some tube and train lines were affected by fallen trees, this one stopping trains into Marylebone. Elsewhere, there were precautionary measures. Kew Gardens said, "This isn't a decision we've taken lightly. We always put the safety of our staff and visitors first, and that is why we've decided to close the gardens early today. We apologise for any inconvenience this causes." Eltham Palace announced yesterday it wouldn't be opening because of the forecast weather. Some National Trust locations were closed. It said before reopening, a tree safety check is carried out along all main visitor routes, with wider estate paths reopening gradually once these routes are checked. And parts of the royal parks, with their ancient trees vulnerable to high winds, were restricted.
London's trees have been under a lot of stress throughout the summer with the droughts we've had, and of course they're still mostly in full leaf, so any kind of high winds has the potential to rip branches off. And it has been widely reported that this was Storm Amy. That isn't the case. That one is still yet to come. Wendy Hurrell, BBC London in Greenwich Park.
Gosh, look at the sky there. Kate, of course, will have the full weather forecast for us shortly. Now, it's been at the heart of the city for hundreds of years, but this Bank of England building, as it stands today, was rebuilt 100 years ago. And it's the place where the UK's interest rate is set, which can affect us all through inflation, mortgage and savings rates. It's also one of London's famous landmarks, nicknamed the Old Lady of Threadneedle Street, and its history is being celebrated in a new exhibition, as Alpa Patel reports.
The Old Lady of Threadneedle Street is to become young again. In other words, these are the new buildings of the Bank of England, and our cameraman goes aloft in the travelling train to see what it's all about. Work has already been in progress about 7 years, and will not be finished for another 3.
It took 15 years to rebuild the Bank of England, the second oldest central bank in the world, after Sweden's central bank. A century on, and a new exhibition looks at its transformation.
When the rebuilding began, the bank was mainly 1 or 2 stories high. It was a bit of a tourist attraction built by John Soane, but by the end of the First World War, it was not big enough. The bank had to expand. It couldn't go out any further because it already took up the whole of this traffic island, so it had to go up. So this building was created over the course of some 15 years. We've got 3 vault levels underground and 8 levels above ground. So it's a 3.2-acre site right here in the middle of the City of London.
The Bank of England obviously shapes the economy. It influences the markets from New York to Tokyo. But here in London, it is central to its skyline, to its history, to its architecture, and to its design. And part of that design is Shakespeare's Ariel, a gilded bronze statue which presides over this part of London.
Ariel is a sculpture on the northwest corner of the bank at Princes Street and Loughbury and Moorgate for the Londoners. And she represented the dynamic spirit of the bank carrying credit and trust around the world. The sculpture itself that's on the bank is about 12 feet tall, and the footage that we have shows this sculpture being precariously loaded into place on top of the dome on that part of the bank, the cherry on the cake, if you like, for that part of the bank.
The exhibition is a journey through time and how times have changed. It is free to the public and is on between Monday and Friday for the foreseeable future. Alpa Patel, BBC London.
Worth a look. Now to an incredibly talented teenager who may not be old enough to drive, but she has become one of the country's youngest university graduates. Just take a look at that smile. 14-year-old Vera Cree got a first-class degree from Middlesex University before many of her peers have even selected their GCSE subjects. Now she's got her eye on something even bigger. Peter Whittlesey has the story.
Vera seems like any other teenager, but when you start talking computer science with her, her knowledge is yottabytely big. That's 10 to the 24 bytes for those of you that understand these things. So it's hardly surprising at the tender age of 14, she's just received a first-class honours degree.
Well, in 5th grade at Paramount Brookside, I was nominated for the High Ability exam. By God's grace, I prayed and I passed it. Then I skipped to 7th, and then I skipped to 9, and then I started doing college credits at Harvard, CS50. I did courses like Harvard's Introduction to Computer Science, Programming with Python, CS50 AI, and when I was 13, I submitted an application to Middlesex and I got in.
Vera's family moved to Kent from the United States to be near her grandpa, who was very ill, and while she was here, the University of Middlesex accepted her on its degree course. Vera had done a whole host of diplomas at Harvard, the world-renowned university. These were taken into account, so Vera managed to complete a 3-year course in just a year, and obviously her parents are extremely proud of her.
We just really support her.
Yeah, there are a few times we've told her, Vera, relax. Why don't you do something that kid your age do? And she's, Dad or Mom,
yeah.
I gotta study. She's, I gotta get this thing done.
I really need to do this. Like she's done some professional exams as well, and she wants to do more. And I'm like, no, you just finished. Just take some time out and just relax. And I think those moments are just traumatizing for her because she always wants to do something. She's always wanting to learn.
Having just completed her degree, what does Vera do now? Unlike many students, she isn't thinking about a temporary job to finance a gap year and travel the world. She's working hard to complete a thesis so Oxford University will accept her for a PhD or doctorate.
Currently writing my thesis. It's 50,000 words. It's artificial intelligence solutions for caregivers with children on the spectrum. My sister's on the spectrum, and I think I can develop solutions that can help children like her. I would like to get my PhD at Oxford. I would like to continue my grandpa's IT business, and Remsen Cares, a business me and my mom started.
For most super bright students, a PhD normally takes 3 to 4 years, but you've guessed it, Vera thinks she can do it in 2, meaning she could be a doctor of computer science before she's legally allowed to drive a car.
So true, and I reckon she'll do it too. Incredible achievement. Congratulations to Vera. Now, it was blustery out there, as we heard. Let's get a check on the weather with Kate. A gorgeous picture that you're matching.
Well, this doesn't just happen on its own, Riz. It's thought about. Good evening. Well, we have had a very autumnal start to the new week. As you heard Wendy talking about earlier, the wind has been very strong today. We had branches down, trees down, everybody blown along the streets. We got a gust of around 49 miles per hour at Heathrow. That was the strongest gust across London, but in September, that's really quite unusual. It was coupled with showers blown through, of course, on that wind. So those showers didn't last very long, but they did blow through fairly quickly. Now, we've still got a couple this evening, but most of them have cleared. Now, in the little black disc here are the wind gusts. Now, it's still going to be very windy. No warning. That is now finished. But we're still looking at gusts across London, 30, 35 miles per hour, which is still very strong, especially at night time. But the showers clear, the sky clear, the minimum temperature in double figures. It's not especially cold, between 11 and 12 Celsius. So for tomorrow morning, with all that cloud cleared, it is a bright start. We still have a bit of a breeze tomorrow. It's not going to be as strong as today, but it's still blustery. Plenty of sunny spells. We've got a bit of patchy cloud, but fewer showers. It should, in the most part, be a dry day tomorrow. Temperatures, again, very similar to today, getting up to around 18, 19 Celsius. You'll notice out here, though, out towards the Chilterns, the more exposed areas because of the wind, it is going to feel a little chillier. Now, overnight Tuesday into Wednesday, this area of low pressure driving towards us. This warm front followed closely by this cold front. In the middle, it's going to feel quite warm, but we've got a lot of rain overnight. This is it on Wednesday morning. It will have cleared, but we're likely to get a damp start. Looking likely that it is going to go a little bit further north and east, but it waves around. So we're likely to see further outbreaks of rain on Wednesday. Still breezy southwesterly, temperatures 19 Celsius. Now, as we head further through the week, it is going to stay very unsettled. Still have low pressure, still have this waving front. So we'll see further outbreaks of rain. Isobars, perhaps not quite as tightly squeezed, so it will get a little less windy. And the temperature, by the time we get to Friday, is actually going to get a little bit warmer. We're looking at a maximum of 23. We could, though, see 24 or 25. Riz.
Oh, that was a surprise. Thank you very much, Kate. And that is it from the 6:30 team this Monday. Thanks very much for watching. Plenty more, of course, on our website, including the heartwarming story of the cockapoo Molly lifting spirits at a London hospital. I'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Hope you can join us then. From all of us, have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.